I can smile when it's raining and touch the warmth of the sun. I hear children laughing. This place that I love, where I live, there are rainbows, flowers, and flowers full of color, and birds filled with song. I can smile when it's raining and touch the warmth of the sun. I hear children laughing in this place that I love, where I live. There are rainbows with life in the laughter of morning and starry nights.
Thank you, Mahina. And welcome to the people who just arrived and to the live stream audience. My name is Pasha McGregor. I'm facilitating this morning, and we have our guest speaker is Pomaika'i Coulon, and Mahina Saunders is our music minister. And although you can't see her on camera, our lay minister is Patty Wall, and you can see her artistry if you look at Pomaika'i. So this morning, we are going to begin with a reading from Science of Mind magazine. And Jeannie, the actual magazine is in the koa bowl if you want it.
Aloha, everyone. See if we can find it here. I know you're here.
August 22nd.
August 22nd, 2021. See through the eyes of love. A man has made at least a start on discovering the meaning of human life when he plants a shade tree under which he knows full well he will never sit. And that's by Elton Trueblood. One of the first things to do is to learn to love everybody. If you have not done this, begin to do so at once. There is always more good than bad in people, and seeing the good tends to bring it forth. And that's by Ernest Holmes in The Creative Mind of Success, page 20. Recently, I saw this quote on Facebook. Even the strongest hands can lose their grip. The greatest minds can become cloudy, and the biggest hearts can break. So be kind. Just always be kind. What great advice. I read that Hopi children are taught at an early age that there is nothing more important than having a Hopi good heart. This includes having trust and respect for others and being concerned for everyone's rights, feelings, and general welfare. American philosopher Cornel West, PhD, teaches that a rich life consists of serving others and trying to leave the world a little better than you found it. We can all have a rich life because we all have the ability to give love, hope, time, touch, attention, and laughter. There is a Jewish fable about a good king who is dying. He asks for his weakest subject to bring him an arrow and break it. He does easily. He then asked for a bundle of arrows to be brought to him. He asked his strongest subject to break it. He can't. The king then tells his subjects to remain united, as this will give them the strength that they do not have alone. Fred Rogers wrote, I believe appreciation is a holy thing, and when we look for what's best in a person we happen to be with at the moment, we're doing what God does all the time. So in loving and appreciating our neighbors, we're participating in something sacred. So our affirmation, and I'll do it in parts, we can do it together. In this moment, I open my heart, to feel the love of spirit radiating, through me to everything I see and everyone I encounter. Through me to everyone I see and everyone I encounter. I remember that all of life is a blessing. I remember that all of life is a blessing. And we are all God's children. And we are all God's children. Bless us all.
That was lovely. So I'd just like to invite us all to take a couple of minutes of silence to reflect on that, or do whatever helps us to be fully centered and present. And I'll ring the little chimes when it's finished. I heard a very authoritative rooster. It's funny whenever we try to be silent together here at New Thought, we realize, well, we can be silent, but we become more aware of the other interesting sounds in the neighborhood. So those of you who came early you got to enjoy some prelude music, but now I'm going to officially ask Mahina for the first song.
Okay. I'm just going to do a short one. You know, I got up in the middle of the night and the moon was just like, whoa. So, you know, Kona moon. And I notice a few of you in here are doing the hula in the background. If you know it, please join in. Kona moon. Kona moon shining so bright, smiling at you right out of the sky. Hey. wonderful, promising that we never part. On a moon, she knows it all. So why deny kisses so sweet? Heard you whispering wonderful words of love, promising that we'd never part. On a moon, she knows it all. So why deny kisses so sweet? So why deny kisses so sweet?
Mahalo Mahina. Your group is called Aloha Moon, right?
Yeah, I'm my group.
Okay, right. Well, there is a group. Sometimes, often Randy is part of it, and sometimes others as well. But today, you are complete. You are the group. So I want to say good morning to everyone again, because some new people have arrived. And to thank you all, those of you who are on the lanai, for wearing your mask. The Board of Trustees feels this practice is still necessary. We want the center to feel safe and welcoming to all our members and friends, and particularly since the Delta variant of COVID is in our community now, I think our rules are good. We've had essentially the same rules for, I don't know, a year, more than a year since we reopened in the summer of 2020. Then we closed for a few months and we reopened again in March, late March. But the board had a meeting last week, and we just basically want to encourage everyone, ourselves included, to recommit to the rules we have so that we can stay safe and stay open. But I realize this might seem hypocritical to those of you watching by live stream because I'm not wearing my mask at this very moment. But what you can't see is there's extra space between the people in the quote front, the presenter, the musician, the facilitator. It's not just 6 feet from the nearest other person. It's generally at least, I think, 12 or more feet. So because we have the extra space, we take our masks off when we're actually speaking, or in the case of the musicians singing. But the rest of the time, we follow the rules like everybody else. We're supposed to anyway. Try to remember. So I wanted to do a little introduction of New Thought as an organization. Our mission, which is on our letterhead, is to provide a sanctuary of aloha for the nourishment, development, and evolution of each individual's unique spiritual path. And we evolved from the Hawaii Church of Religious Science, which changed its name to the Kona Community Church of Religious Science. And the original church was established in 1971 in the month of September. So we are coming up on our 50th anniversary. And we have held services nearly continuously from that time. At first in Keaho, and then since 1999 in Kealakekua, and for a good portion of 2020 in cyberspace. But we're happy to be back here on our beautiful lanai in Kealakekua this morning. We are affiliated with the International New Thought Alliance, INTA, which is not a church, but it's an umbrella organization that brings together groups and individuals who share certain common beliefs and attitudes. Among them, the idea that a new thought embodied in consciousness produces a new condition. So that's where the new thought phrase came in that certain context. And Judge Thomas Troward is credited with using it that way for the first time. This INTA organization also includes many unity and religious science churches, or centers for spiritual living, as most of them are now called. So that's a history in a nutshell. And because we have this significant birthday coming up, one of the things that we have been doing is setting aside one Sunday a month to invite someone who's played a key role in that history to share with us, to help us understand our roots. And this is one of those Sundays, because Pomaika'i Coulon she was president of the board at a time which was extremely important for New Thought, when we realized a long-held, cherished dream. And you'll be learning more about that later. So enough talking. Now we get to have another song, but along with this song, we get a dance.
Okay. If you know me, Mahina, I've been teaching hula and kona for longer than, about as long as the church has been around. So pretty close to that. And Pomaika'i, way back when, was one of my lovely hula ladies, and it's been many years. She's been busy, and busy life goes this way. So we get to reunite with one of her old faves, Kapua'e. It's a hapa haole, so that you can understand, right, English words with the Hawaiian music. So go Pomaika'i. Yeah. Pa. Hanaho. Gardenias. Gardenias blooming white. Hibiscus blooming bright. I'll have a little way up your lips. Your lips are also red, like a bird of paradise. I'll have a little way up flowers. Flowers are blooming all over Hawaii. They smell so sweet, they aren't very big. They'll thrill you through and through. Haina iamai, le pakalana. I'll have a way, Kapua'e. I'll have a way, Kapua'e. Mahalo. Little treat for all of us.
Well, that was delightful. Thank you so much. By the way, that if there's anyone that is puzzled by this gesture, it's quite a few years ago, somebody shared with us the sign language for applause, which was sort of twiddling your fingers, but we evolved it at New Thought to raise our arms because then it's like a standing ovation. So that was definitely worthy of that. Thank you both. I now have the pleasure to invite you, anyone who feels so moved, to share what we call miracles and ordinaries. These are the special happenings in our lives that give us insights, that remind us of truth, that change us. But we also say that they're ordinary because they happen in the midst of our ordinary lives. They're the stuff of our ordinary lives, and the lessons are there for us to serve us right now. We also hope that as we practice our spiritual principles, that perhaps they will become more frequent to the point that they seem almost ordinary. So if you have anything of that nature to share, we invite you to come up, and the mic with the red cover, and please do keep your mask on since more than one person is using that mic.
In preparing for today's talk, which is totally not my normal kind of talk, which had me a little rattled, I started to think, well, I can do some research and find what I have here to remind me of things. And I found a few things, but not much, which you'll learn later. However, what I did do was I went back through all these journals that I, for some reason, kept and never threw away, and probably a bookshelf full this month, and took me a while. But I found fascinating, I expected to see drama and me pouring my heart out and all these, things going on. And what was mostly in my journals were positive affirmations, things I wanted to create, things that were created that I was grateful for. And it was just chock full of gratitude. They were essentially gratitude journals. And I know I didn't intend them to be gratitude journals when I did them, but that's exactly what they were. So that kind of reminded me. I think sometimes we judge ourselves harsher than anybody else. And that just reminded me of who I really am inside and how I really function at a higher level than I ever thought I ever did. So it was just such an ordinary miracle that I just needed to share that.
I'm Margie, and I've been told I need to get up here. So I am. Yes, by good authority. I just got word in that I passed my national physical therapy exam. I graduated with my bachelor's in 1968, just a couple of years ago. We didn't have grad school at that time. Now they got grad school. And I knew there were things like ECGs. They call it ECGs now. I call it EKG, but they changed it. And they changed a whole hell of a lot of stuff. And then, of course, the human body is so complex. And they found out a whole bunch more stuff in the last 50 years. So here I am. I took the test a year ago, failed it. Then I took it again, failed it. But 3 times the charm. So I'm going back to work, 75 years old. I'm going to be out there. Thank you.
I'd say that's a major miracle, almost like the parting of the Red Sea. And very inspiring to others of your generation, Margie. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I don't usually share miracles when I'm facilitating, but there's one that really has touched my heart that maybe I will. It kind of relates to Margie too. So Hank Wesselmann, one of our very most beloved, inspiring teachers at New Thought Center, made his transition, I think it was in March. And his wife, Jill Kuykendall, had been living with some kind of blood cancer for, I don't know, 5, 7, quite a long time. And it's like Hank was the strong one from a physical point of view, so she was suddenly widowed. I mean, when he didn't, although, I mean, he had to go to the emergency room, he had to be in the hospital for a few weeks, but his departure seemed rather sudden because it all happened over a period of about 6 weeks, and all of a sudden she was a widow and, not with the strongest body herself. But the miracle part is that I don't know her well at all. I only really remember being physically in her presence twice. But it's kind of like I inherited a new friend. And it started because Maria Mann and I ended up sort of organizing an online memorial for Hank. We just had one of those Sundays that New Thought had set aside for sharing anyway, and that's what was in all of our hearts at that time. And because it was online, it could include lots of his other students and friends and colleagues in all parts of the country, even a few out of the country. And apparently that was very important and meaningful to Jill because it felt like it needed to happen, but she couldn't have done it herself at that point. So I think maybe that was the seed of it, but it's just, and Margie is her neighbor. So between, Jill and Margie and me and Maria, it's just like this sort of sweet friendship has developed. And the latest installment of it is Jill is going through a lot of Hank's possessions and trying to figure out what to do with them, including his books, which had been published in, I think, 30 languages. And the publishers would typically send him a copy, whether it's in, Czech or German or Swahili. And so Jill had mentioned this in an email. I don't think she even knew that I was a foreign language teacher by profession before I retired. But, I just perked right up and oh, well, if it's in this language or this language or this language, I might be able to find a good home for it. And so Margie, I think, brought a batch of books for me today, which I will try to, direct to the right people who can appreciate them and read them easily. So thank you. All right, did that trigger anything for anyone else? Nope. Okay, well, moving on then. I now get to introduce my longtime friend, Pomaika'i. I was trying to figure out just how long. And I love the little anecdote which she shared about the coconuts, which was one of her early connections with New Thought Church. And I realized from it was in the newsletter if you read the article, but okay, I'll let her fill in details. But I was just trying to pinpoint, well, if it was in this place, it must have been in this time. And I figured, okay, we're talking the 80s here because it was when the church was still meeting at the old Keoho Beach Hotel. So our membership form says that she became a member in 1992, but her connection with our church/center definitely goes back to the mid 80s. And she and I were both involved in childcare in the 90s. So anyway, so during her tenure as president, she led a very special group of trustees as they maneuvered their way into the purchase of what is now known as home for the New Thought community. And Virginia Halliday, who spoke to us last month, was part of the series of, apparent coincidences that led her to be sitting in this chair right now in 2021. She has spent a lifetime studying the various religions and philosophies of the world. She's trained in Huna, the Lono tradition in the Hawaiian religious practices. She now practices as a non-denominational belief in spirit, using many of her Hawaiian roots as a foundation and lokahi, or unity, as her theme. She has a ministry called the Dancing Dolphin Ministry. She has served as a science of mind practitioner, practiced Buddhist traditions, as well as so-called traditional religions, and is ordained in the Order of Melchizedek. And one other thing I don't quite understand. Reiki, Psyche, DNA, Theta healing, Hands of Light, healing touch. These are all things she has explored and practiced. And she considers dolphins, whales, and turtles to be some of her greatest teachers and friends. But with that, I'm going to invite Pomaika'i to take it away. And Pomai, I'm going to move to a different chair so that I can be looking straight at you as you're presenting. Okay. And I'll come back to the facilitator chair when it's getting close to time to wind up.
You can turn this one off too. Okay. Aloha, everyone, and aloha you out there in Cyberland. I know I'm going to have a few viewers either today or tomorrow, so welcome. I wish you were here in person. And I got to admit that I am nervous for this talk. It isn't my normal thing. I usually speak inspired by spirit, and that's very natural for me. This is, I realized, a history talk. And in school, I always got good grades without much effort in everything except history. It's the only thing I couldn't master. I was not good at dates. I could not remember. I barely remembered when I was born. So please forgive me if I don't get the dates correct, and I may not. So it all began when I returned After spending 4 years of science of mind training, 3 years at Ernest Holmes College, and becoming a licensed practitioner, and after a few years of settling in, I went in search of my spiritual ahana. Didn't know what that was going to look like. Was pretty open to anything, and at the time, it was a little strange for me because there really didn't appear to be anything like Science of Mind around. So I finally looked in the Science of Mind magazine, which back then used to be a good resource to find things, and it led me to Virginia Halliday. And I gave her a call, and she told me where she was, and she begrudgingly agreed to meet with me. And we got together and we talked stories, shared about our science mind backgrounds, and she told me about her church and said, oh, come, anytime you want to. Well, I'm a dolphin at heart, and so I don't join up easily. So after a few years of settling in, I went in search of after more passing years, I decided to go back and try this spiritual community out. And I found myself at the Keauhou Beach Hotel, behind the King's Holly, in a shrub-enclosed grassy area where everyone was receiving a coconut, a whole coconut. This had me thoroughly intrigued. And by the way, the Keauhou Beach Hotel and the King's Holly and that little grassy area do not exist anymore. It's just been a little shock to my nervous system to see how quickly things can disappear, especially here in Hawaii. So I thought, what an awesome location for a church. I want to come here. And then I found out it was their last service there. And I was like, what? Come on. I just love this place. But what they were doing was they were celebrating being at that location, and they were moving across the highway, across the road, actually straight across into what used to be the gardens. And it used to be real gardens. It was beautiful, miles. You could walk all these trails. There were flowers. It was just heaven. And there were 2 buildings over there. And so the massage school was using one of the buildings, and they said, come be with us. You can have our building on Sundays. And so New Thought started, or Kona, what was it? Kona Community Church, I guess could join up with them and use the building for Sundays. It also had a little cage, I call it. It wasn't too little. It was pretty good size, but it was basically a cage. It was a roof with bars and things around it. And and apropos, we used that for the childcare. And that's where I first met Pasha. We were cellmates. Yeah, I was blessed with getting to spend a great deal of time with my first granddaughter, and I took her with me often to church there, and that's how we wound up going there. And shoot, I lost my place. Okay. So through the good graces of Lynn Wind and her husband, their massage school let us use her facilities on Sunday mornings. That lasted for a while, and then guess what? Then we relocated again into Kealakekua. A bittersweet move for us all, as we were rather in love with being on the ocean. Lynn and her husband purchased this entire building, this top floor, the whole thing all the way to the parking lot. And that was their massage school. And again, bless them, after we couldn't find anywhere else to go, they invited us to join them here. So we used just that front room area, which is like about 2/3 of what is Island Spirit, or yeah, the spa that used to be there. And we had that one room to use. And we had one not too big storage closet that used to be right there and used to get rained on continuously, as we found out by accident when we went to pull something out of the back and everything was wet. Anyway, so we lived like that for a while. We were pretty happy. Things were pretty groovy. Every once in a while, they let us do something a little extra here. But basically, we were in that room. That was it. And that room, by the time we were ready to break free from it, it was jam-packed with people every Sunday. So we had to grow. We needed space. And then, so what did Spirit do? Lynn's husband passed away, made his transition. And so for about a year, she wasn't sure what she was going to do. And in the meantime, knew we wanted a new home, but we didn't know what to do about it. So we had a board retreat with Jim Shannon, the late, great Jim Shannon, up north. And he led us through a process where we actually created a vision board for what we wanted to be our new center. I still have that in my head. I don't think it actually physically exists anymore, does it? I haven't seen it for a while. Somebody was supposed to keep it safe. Maybe they'll bring it back when it's the right time. Anyway, it was quite an amazing place that we wanted to create, and it was like an open air like this, with all the accoutrement, a child care facility that was away from the main building, and different things like that. And it was actually going to be pretty phenomenal. So that was the dream we were holding. And when Lynn finally a year later came to us and said, I'm ready to sell. I'm going to sell this place, and I'm going to offer it to you folks first. So she gave us the opportunity to purchase this whole place. And we thought, wow, that's amazing. Yes, let's do this. It's awesome. It's not our dream, but it'll get us one step closer. And so it was the old idea of, somebody shared, I think, in one of the meetings, the story about when there's a flood and the man's in his home and he climbs up on his roof and he's praying to God to be saved, and a rowboat comes by and they say, come get in, and he says, no, I'm waiting for God to save me, and they leave, and somebody else comes by and let's go, and a helicopter comes, no, he waves him away, God's going to save me, and the man drowns. So the idea is that, that first rowboat might be your salvation. So for us, this was our rowboat. Get in it, go with it, and see where it takes us. And I'm sure this isn't going to be our final destination. I still have hopes that the vision that we've all had for some time actually becomes a reality. So, I forgot the funny part. Getting to where we are now, to me, it's almost luxurious, because there was a time when we had just the use of that room back there. And then the massage school had a building inspector come, And they used this whole lanai for massage work. And they had storage bins on this end over here. And we had our storage closet right here. And they came and they said, you got to get rid of these storage bins, and you especially have to get rid of this closet. Our only storage, because we only had use of that room on Sunday. We couldn't store anything in it. There wasn't any place to store. So that began the saga of the bins. Patty and I shared. For a number of years, we put all of our stuff into plastic storage bins. And for a year or two or three, they were at my house, and then I had to move. And Patty graciously volunteered to take them on, and I think you had them about 2 years, didn't you? 2 years at her house. So that meant every single Sunday, somebody schlepped all of those boxes into their vehicle, drove them here, schlepped them in, emptied them out, filled them back up, schlepped them to the car, drove them home, and schlepped them into their storage area. So that happened every single Sunday for at least 2 or 3. I think it was 4 years. So again, not good with history. So just to show you that where our hearts were coming from was to have just a little bit more than what we actually had. And it was decidedly a challenging way to operate. I kind of quit coming to New Thought for a while, then somewhere in there, for about maybe 8 years or so, because there was a lot of mansplaining going on here, and I just didn't like the feel of it and the direction of it and what was happening on the Sunday services. It just didn't vibe with me. But we had a lot of men here, a lot more than we do now. And it was, so I just didn't come. And then Judith Lynn, who was getting ready to move, called me up and said, come over, I need to talk to you, it's really important. And so she told me what had been going on with the board and what had been going on with the church, and that there were all these changes that had happened and were happening. And she begged me to come and run for office and be on the board so I could make a change. And so I said, I'll think about it. And then I thought about it, and I told her, I said, if I can get someone else with a like mind to mine to come with me, so there's at least 2 of us, so we can actually make a change, then I'll do it. So I don't remember. I think it was Lorraine, but it might have been Pasha that I convinced to come with me, or it might have been all 3. It might have been all of us to come and make a change on the board, because everything was testosterone there. It was just, it was. And so we did. We got elected to office. I'm not sure how, but and then that's when we decided to go treasure seeking with Jim Shannon and learn about all the things that were possible. And the amazing thing, too, was at that time, as we were dreaming of our new home and Lynn was offering us this place, financially, it was a really hard time. It was when people were losing their retirement funds. Their investments were going in the tank. Everybody was losing money right and left. People that thought they were financially secure lost almost everything they had. And we didn't. We actually maintained and even thrived a little bit during that time, which was a miracle. And a lot of it has to go to credit to Pasha because she was the treasurer. So we kept it all together. We had the money not to buy the whole place, to only buy part of it. So technically, she couldn't sell us this place, the lanai, but technically, belongs to whoever owns that room. So we figured out, okay, we need that room, we need the kitchen, we need that office down the hallway, and we could use that other one for a classroom. And so that's what we could afford. So we went back to Lynn and we said, can we buy this, but only this much? And she said, okay, because I have somebody else who wants to buy the other end. And we're like, oh, no. We'd had our share of not the right fit kind of neighbors for us. And so we were a little nervous about someone else coming in and being right next to us, and what was that going to be like? But it turned out to be these amazing people who owned Island Spirit Spa. And so we were so blessed because they were like the best neighbors ever. Ken was always over here saying, can I do anything for you? Loaning us ladders, climbing up ladders, doing all kinds of things, whatever we needed. And it was really a wonderful experience to have such wonderful, wonderful neighbors. The thing I miss the most since they've moved, and they aren't at this end anymore, they're across in that little separate building. Thing I miss the most is that we used to get fresh hibiscus all along the walkway up to New Thought. And that was Christine, the owner of Island Spa. And she would go pick them every Sunday morning and put them out there for us to make our entrance here beautiful. So we finally had a new home. Or did we? I don't know. It was offered. We somewhat accepted. And the thing that got me through all of it was this little quote, because I still have this. It's interesting. It's called Leap of Faith. I will take this leap of faith, spread my wings and fly. I will know the truth of who I am, and I'll write it on the sky. Kept my focus, kept my direction and my intention. And I'm going to read you, this was an address that I made in February when we have our annual meeting. The president usually gives an address and talks about what happened in the last year. And lucky for me, I kept this, otherwise I wouldn't even know this. So it says, President Address, February 20th, 2011. On October 15th, 2010, we gave birth to our new home. While we were hoping for an easy labor, this was not the case, as many months and much agonizing occurred. We began to realize that we weren't fully prepared for this delivery, and many hands and many hearts began to create this new home. The baby still has a long way to grow, and it takes a village to raise a child, just as it takes the New Thought Ohana of Spirit to create the home we are dreaming into reality. Infinite Source has guided and protected us on our financial journey through this time of great hardship for many people. We continue to be blessed with financial miracles, as our treasurer, Pasha, will explain later, and you can if you want to. We want to name the baby, each room its own unique identification, and we are looking forward to your ideas and suggestions. So, of course, we have the Maluhia room, and, we did it. Ron Johnson, our vice president, has some wonderful suggestions and ideas for the new board, whom you will elect today. Many of these could provide us with additional income. I continue to receive compliments about our programming and about the spirit that lives in this place. Tracy Cagle has served as our program director and is temporarily unable to join us due to work demands, which has continued to this very day. And that was 28, so it's 10 years now. Okay, he's looking forward to continuing now that he has the hang of it. Lorraine Cohn, our former program director, still continues to find people as well who add so much to our service. I just want to say a little things. This is sidebar to Lorraine. Throughout the years, I think, you know, she was on the board while we were going through all of this. She very wisely, I think she asked Patty to handle the real estate negotiations of it. It was very back and forth and complicated, and there were so many things to know and to learn about, and oh my gosh, it was just incredibly convoluted. But throughout the years, Lorraine she posts on Facebook every week what's happening at New Thought. She finds speakers she loves. She supports this church in so many ways, even though we don't see her very often sometimes. She is just the most amazing presence and heart. And I'm just so grateful for Lorraine Cohn. And Patty Wall has been our lay minister this year. Was that the first year you did it? Wow. So, 11 years. 11 years you've been doing it. 11 years. Patty Wall has been our lay minister this year, creating special handmade lays when possible. And I heard her whisper that she wants to do more this year. So mark that down, board members. That is love demonstrated. And she demonstrates it every day. And I was, yay. Still grateful. Our music ministers have been amazing this year. It just seems to get better and better. And I am so happy to know how many talented people want to come and play with us and for us. Perhaps with the purchase of some good sound equipment, we can have more concerts here in our new home. Well, we got the bows, but it took a few years. We did start having concerts. We did start having events. Sometimes Hank Wesselmann would do a 2-day retreat here, and then it became one. All of board members have given hundreds of hours of their time this year to enhance our spiritual home, find solutions to challenges, and create a special place of spiritual renewal for us all. Each and every person, member or not, and I was not for a long time, has contributed to New Thought and what it is today. We are so blessed by you all. I would like the board, I'm going to give them a lays. And the last paragraph, I personally am looking forward to new horizons, and I'm excited to experience the growth of New Thought in a different way. It has been an honor to serve as president, secretary, and treasurer, and parliamentarian, and secretary, and I don't know how many times I was doing that. And just an ordinary board member, just showing up and being part of the group and adding my mana'o to their mana'o. What an amazing experience that was. So, and then it says, now I get to serve as a member. And serving as a member, think about that. You are in service by just being here. Even if you're not a member, just by being here, you are in service. Pasha sent out a questionnaire to people that might do this particular thing that I'm doing. And so I started scribbling on this thing. And yes, I officially joined in 92. I think I'd been coming for about 6 or 7 years. And finally, somebody got me for some reason. I don't remember. Somebody said something to me that just triggered me. And I went, oh, okay. And I joined. My big thing, and then and still is someone had mentioned last week about the different names for God or Spirit. And my name is the Is, which is Infinite Source, I-S, Infinite Source. And I use that to motivate and propel me into any new things that I am trying to create or release. And I don't know about y'all, but the last year or so, it's been more about release, letting go, trying to be okay with, not trying's dying, being okay with all the changes and letting go of the way it used to be so I can be present right here, right now, the way it is. In other words, infinite source. So one of her questions is, what can you recall about the circumstances? The question was about, are you one of the founders of the original church? If yes, and the answer is no, I was not. But what can I recall about the circumstances? And I wrote, after a few years of settling in, I got hungry for science and mind in a magazine and found Virginia. And then says, can you remember the names of some of the other founders? And I don't know if they're founders, but these are the impactful people. For me, Roger and Lydia Weiss, Pasha McGregor, Manuel and Bernice Roberto, Lorraine Cohn, Erica Maureen Langberg, and I could go on and on. There were just so many wonderful people. And I still stay in touch with all of these people. They're all still in my life, and I'm very grateful for them. And it said, what gave you the most satisfaction during your time as leader? Those of you who were there will remember we finally purchased our current home. What was your greatest challenge? Convincing some of our more thrifty board members to make the leap. What was your funniest and or most surprising experience? We had a board retreat. I believe it was with Jamila, but I couldn't swear to that, where we learned about our styles of communication. And what was interesting was on the board at that time, there were more than 6 people there, but I believe only 6 people showed up for this. It was kind of a workshop kind of thing, but mainly to teach us how we communicate and why we keep doing this with our communication. And so fortunately there was a big whiteboard there, and she wrote it on the whiteboard, so it was easy to see. I'm visual, so that helped me a lot. And from that, I found out that our board at that time was composed of the 6 people there, 3 people who communicated one way and 3 people who communicated the other. We were evenly divided. Pasha communicates one way, I communicate a different way. So the three people, Pasha and I think it was Manuel and somebody, I don't remember who else, communicate in minutia, little details. That's their strength. Their strength is seeing the little picture, seeing each little step, taking each little step, and that's how they communicate. The other three people, me being included, my way of communicating and envisioning things is seeing the big picture. And when we did that workshop, afterwards, I felt such an incredible release of, you can imagine, and understand, and finally coming into understanding, and also understanding how important it is that there's both types on the board, because we need people to examine the little things, and we need people to see the big picture or we'll never go anywhere. So that was just an absolute blessing to me. What was accomplished during your term of service? We started having concerts, large workshops, and events. We did have money in the budget to fix these sliding glass doors so that they close properly without sticks, and they're still 11 years later closing with sticks. So I don't know. I think overall, serving as president on this organization, totally have tons of empathy for Pasha, because she's been doing it now for quite a while. And even though a lot of the people, I'm sure, are very agreeable, I'm sure there are times, or at least people or times, that aren't quite agreeable with everything that happens. So I totally understand her struggles, and I gotta say, Pasha, you're a braver warrior than I was. Congratulations. And just appreciate all that we've been able to do. I think one of my biggest accomplishments, which wasn't on the board, was for years I was saying, we need to get high tech, we need to record our programs, we need to share it with the world, let's get online. No, 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 no. No, we can't do it. No, we don't have the money. No, we can't. No, we don't. Nobody knows how to do. Blah, 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 blah. And here we are, online. Aloha.
Thank you, Pomaika'i. I'm so glad we have that recorded, because, you know, it is our history. It's not just yours or mine. It belongs to New Thought Center. And oh, what a trip down memory lane. And the gift of the pandemic, you know, that it all of a sudden, these technological improvements that were not reaching the top of the to-do list, they were right in our face. It was practically all we could do. So, one funny moment I remember, Pomaika'i, maybe you do too. It was, we were pretty far along in our process of purchasing this property. And then there was some problem about furniture, you know, like whether it was going to be sold with or without furniture. We're talking about a nearly $200,000 investment, and it's like the accumulation of funds to do it went back to the beginning, you know, the 1970s. And all of a sudden we're worrying about, well, what happened to that bookcase? It's supposed to be with furniture. And, you know, it's like, and I remember one of the other board members just throwing up hands and saying, Mercury's in retrograde. Do you remember?
Yes, I do.
And I'm thinking, oh my God, I don't want to lose this opportunity because Mercury's in retrograde. anyway, that was really, really awesome. And thank you for, even though you didn't think history was your strong point, thank you for accepting the challenge. And I'm so glad you saved that address. Can we make a Xerox of it and put it? Okay, great. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. And I hope it wasn't boring for people who weren't part of it. It was fascinating for me, but of course I shared some of those experiences. Um, and well, so it wasn't only that the last thing you said, Pomai, about the last thing that you said about wanting us to kind of move into the 21st century with technology. You know, she didn't just say it, she did it. Because even though she wasn't on the board, she recreated our website, which had fallen into non-existence after Morty Breyer passed away. And she was for 15 years or no, wait, it wasn't quite. Well, definitely over a decade. She was our webmaster and newsletter editor of the electronic newsletter. Did we figure out it was 15 years?
I don't know.
Yeah.
It was a long time.
Yeah, because it started before we purchased the property and continued until this year, January. So. Okay.
Okay, there, got it. Okay, so yeah, actually, when Judith Lynn called me and said, "Come do this," one of the things she wanted to do was to dump all of her files on me from New Thought and to have me take over. She was creating a newsletter. She was typing it up on Word at home on the computer and then sending it out in email, personal emails, one by one by one. And it was a brutal process. That's what she was doing. So so after a while I said, there's gotta be a better way. So I started looking into other ways of doing it. And that's when we finally went digital with our newsletter. And that was just the most immense help. It was incredible, huh? The difference in hours spent every week changing to that new system. So that was awesome. So got all credit to Kahealani, Judith Lynn. Love you. I hope you're out there watching. Aloha.
Okay. Did we do the standing ovation? Let's do it. Not only for the talk, but for the decades of service. Yeah. So now is the time that we can show our appreciation for our center and our support for its continuation by making an offering. And because of our special COVID rules, we can't pass our beautiful koa bowl, but it's sitting here on this table. And while Mahina does some lovely offertory music, I invite you to come one at a time to place your offering in the bowl. And the online people, please visit our website, www.newthoughtcenterofhawaii.com, and you can see a donate, instructions how to donate, a button that takes you to the website, and then that connects to our PayPal account. That's probably the most efficient way to do it if you're not physically present, although postal mail works as well, and there are instructions for that on the website as well. So let's have some music.
Okay. Aloha, everyone. I'm back. I just got reminded by listening to all of this history from Pomaika'i, who I've known for many, many, many years. And I actually got to be a part of that new going digital online the first time we needed musicians. And I was at home, and Randy, thank God, knew about computers because I am totally clueless. And we ended up doing that for that first thing. I was like, oh, okay. So it actually fell over on me because last year while we were doing COVID and all of this stuff and everything shuts down, I ended up doing my hula class on Zoom, Zula, for a year. Yes, we did it. We were there doing Zula, and believe me, I was the one on the floor crying and kicking my feet, and I can't do it, and la 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 la. And finally, I did it and got through a year of it, and it's actually been a good experience. Learning, and I'm not as Lolo as I thought, but technology is just kind of like my hands. I can put my hands on it, I got it. But this button stuff is like, ah. So I've gotten to grow and experience, and mahalo. And actually, thank you guys for that, because if I hadn't had that experience, I would have even not thought about it, you know? So mahalo, and there's my miracle. Yeah.
Yay.
Okay. Wake us up just a little bit, yeah? Hey, ho, hey, no, hey, kea, he kai mo mana nui la nui ke aloha e koi nei me ke alo kali poa. Hey, ho, hey, no, hey, kea, he kai mo mana nui la nui ke aloha e koi nei me ke alo kali poa. Poa I kai ke one, he ane hinu la velai kala. E mai mana o puro ke ia. Ko hue ka ko, ke kawilu na o na mokula. O ia mokula i o ia i o ia nei. Haina mai kauana, kali poa me kali kohu, pui oe me kapahe, anoi me kali palu. Last time around. Haina mai kauana, kali poa me kali kohu, pui oe me kapahe, anoi me kali palu.
Yeehaw. Oh, so much foot tapping. And a couple of people getting out of their seats because they just couldn't stand to not dance. Thank you. So I have announcements as we draw near the closing of today's service. This is what you have to look forward to in the future. So our main service is at 10 a.m. and there are the three ways you can access it. You can come here if you're on the island. We meet in person with safety rules. You can watch the live stream as it's happening, or you can watch the recording. It says the next day, but you actually can do it later in the day, Sunday. It's just it hasn't been edited and might have sort of embarrassing technical flaws. But the spirit's still there. Okay, so the next Sunday, what's happening is Bernice and Manuel Roberto are going to come and lead us in celebrating Janmastami, the appearance day of Lord Krishna. They've been doing this annually for several, I think at least 5 years. There'll be music, there'll be stories. We won't there, if it were not for COVID, there would also be food. But because we are not able to do potlucks safely yet, I let Bernice know if she could come up with some kind of a Janmashtami treat to go, we could include it with the produce giveaway. But I don't know if she will be able to manifest that. But it'll still be a delightful experience. And the following Sunday, that'll be the first Sunday of September, the 5th, Phil Centers will be coming to share more insights about Rudolf Steiner. He did a program, excellent program for us. I think it was about a year ago, the summer of 2020. And so he's calling this one part 2, but I'm sure it will be just fine even if you didn't come to the first one. Rudolf Steiner and his place in our time. And music that Sunday will be provided by Rob Decker. We have 2 sort of monthly traditions we've established in the last several months. One is that the last Sunday of the month is the produce giveaway. We're going to at least continue this until we're able to do potlucks again. Even though we can't eat together, we can still share food in that way. So all of you farmers, gardeners, even if you just have one fruit tree and it's bearing, we invite you to share your abundance. So that'll be this very next Sunday, the 29th. And everyone, farmer, gardener or not, can be prepared to receive. We do have some bags that we provide, but if you want to bring your own bag or basket, that's fine too. So we don't want anyone to go away empty-handed. And if you are bringing things to share, maybe you could try to come early just so we can get the tables arranged. But the actual giveaway is after service. And the tables are not on the lanai, but out at the end of the walkway as you're on your way to the parking lot. We're still looking for that produce giveaway, Czar, too. So if you want to have the honor and glory of organizing this, please see me after service. And the first Sunday of the month, which will be the 5th, we will be doing the pre-service healing meditation with crystal bowls. That's from 9 to 9:30, and by donation. And Erin Peoples is the crystal bowl minister, and I believe Barry, who's been doing our sound tech, I think he's going to maybe participate in that in September. So looking forward to it. And service opportunities. Okay, I've added one, I think, as a result of something Pomaika'i said last week. Okay, we need volunteers for the 50th Jubilee Planning Group. I know that many people are looking forward to it, but we haven't had a huge number of volunteers. And the second opportunity, a special person to recreate the Facebook page for NTCH, because that was part of what Pomaika'i did, but her successor, Julia, is not into Facebook and just made it clear from the start she would be willing to do her best to do what Pomaika'i did, except for the Facebook. So that's a great opportunity for the right person. And Sunday service volunteers, we can use facilitators, greeters, tech support, cleanup, crystal bowlers, and the produce giveaway czar. Since you are here, there's a pretty good chance you're already on the New Thought mailing list. But if you aren't, you can correct that. Just go to www.newthoughtcenterofhawaii.com, and there's a place where you can sign up for the weekly newsletter. It's Our information is also shared via Dolphin Podners. It's the mailing group. So that's the conclusion of the regular announcements. And there is one additional thing that I have to share with you in my president of the board role. Oh, please, go ahead.
I turned it off because I had a red light. So our website has not been working on iPhones or probably Androids either. And Julia finally got it fixed. So if you paid attention to what I was doing during the offering, I go on PayPal and send in my donation that way. So if you want to do your donations through PayPal, it's working again. You can do it. It's easy. That's all.
Thank you. I'm glad that that problem was resolved. Yeah. So our board had a meeting this past week by Zoom, and we did discuss the ramifications of this Delta variant, and I'm old-fashioned enough, I still get a paper, and at the top of West Hawaii today, it gives these numbers. Active cases on the Big Island right now, 1,575. New cases identified yesterday on the Big Island, 126. And this is coming closer to home. 2 weeks ago, Woody Plout was our presenter, and his wife, Aviva, was going to do music with him. But she's a nurse at Kona Hospital. She got called into work at 10 o'clock, so she couldn't do that. I called for a plumber last week who's done work here at Pualani Terrace. His wife texted back and said, sorry, he can't work right now. He's down with COVID. So, we don't want to be governed by fear, but we also don't want to be oblivious to something that's genuine. It's a little bit like the story Pomaika'i told about the rowboat. You have to sort of balance the. Let's see. There's another saying I've heard that I like is, keep an open mind, but don't let your brain fall out. So, because the 9 board members have the special Kuleana of New Thought Center, we've been trying to strike the right balance between we want to be positive, but we also want to be safe. And so we reviewed our rules, our Sunday service rules, and we concluded that they were good rules, and we didn't actually make any changes. But because we've had the same rules for a year or more, it's kind of like you stop paying attention after a while. So I'm going to read them to you. And there's only going to be 2 behavioral changes starting next week. But I'd just like to have everyone focus a little more on these. 1, stay home if you are sick or if you feel yourself to be at risk. 2, social distancing requires 6 feet spacing except for people who live together. 3, reservations are encouraged by email or phone. We have a 40-person limit. 4, enter and exit mindfully following usher's guidance. 5, no rearranging of chairs. Ask usher's help if there is a problem. 6, no hugging or shaking hands. Express affection in non-physical ways. 7, masks covering nose and mouth are required of all those in attendance, including those who have roles in the service. Exception, speaker and facilitator may remove masks while speaking. Vocalists who are music ministers may remove masks while singing. 8, no group singing. We've been fudging on that a little, but singing through our masks only. 9, no passing of handheld mic. 10, koa bowl on table, invitation to give, but bowl will not be passed hand to hand. 11, no potluck or beverage service. 12, New Thought will maintain a supply of face masks, hand sanitizer, and wipes. 13, New Thought will clean and disinfect furnishings and fixtures frequently. 14, New Thought will record or live stream services for those who can't attend. Okay, so what is going to change next week is our entry procedure. We're going to use one of those touch-free gadgets to check temperatures. I'm sure you've encountered them in many locations, schools, businesses, health establishments. Secondly, we've left it up to people to determine for themselves, number one, if they're sick, number two, if they feel themselves to be at risk. But there is one group of people that we as a board consider to be at risk based on the statistics that the vast majority of people who get sick enough to be hospitalized, 85% at least, are people who haven't been vaccinated. So if you are in that category of people, we are advising that it would probably be safer to stay home and watch the live stream or the recording until this this Delta surge passes over. Short of that, we're the very absolute best masks in existence, and maybe even double mask. Jeff, if you can turn around so everyone can see you, he's wearing a really high quality mask, so he's our model. Okay, thank you. N95. And we do have some of those, I believe, in the Honua room, so we'll have them out available next week.
It's a lot better than the others. The others tend to be.
They cover too much. Okay. Thank you for that tip. Okay, and another thing that we were doing at the beginning and haven't done recently, but I'm going to right now, is give people who feel, if you feel it's safer for you to not interact with other people after service, to give you a chance to exit early. So we'll be having our closing song momentarily, but if there's anyone who wants to slip out right now, that's okay. No one will take offense. Okay. Okay. Aloha. And Mahina, you're invited back to lead us in Hawaii Aloha.
Aloha. Thank you, folks. Sing loud from out there in the parking lot. We can still hear you.
So we can't circle up, but we can stand.
He Hawaii Coulon, he Hanawe. Uhome Ulainine. Olino ina pagolaniu. He Hawaii, aloha he haolina o pio Hawaii ne. Put the hand one more round. Hey, how we now be Hawaii.
I'll be alone.